Hopefully smooth lah. Sometimes I terbatuk-batuk juga sikit-sikit so semua almost dah cover lah InsyaAllah we try the best lah. Okay, so let me share the screen. So now week 9 already. As usual. Okay, class. Can you see my screen showing the Putra Blast punya apa tu? Screen. Nampak Alright, so okay. I open this one. Okay, for the nutritional values. Actually kan, I forgot lah to restart my laptop. Hopefully within 1 hour ni kita boleh cover Okay. Tinggal 1 hour and half sikit je lagi bateri dekat office kan. So InsyaAllah lah. Cuba Okay. Share. Sampai mention je. So everyone dah ada ke berapa orang ni? How many of you currently? InsyaAllah. Tak sangat ni. Baca hanging sekejap wait. Log in. Slow sikit internet wait. Awak tak mau pula dengar. Kadang-kadang nampak kan Putra Blast kan? You all can see my screen. Tak boleh pula dia nak buka ni slide ni. Alright, okay. Okay, nampak Class? Okay, dah open already. Dua sekali open lah. Okay, I make it slideshow.
Doktor, tak nampak doktor.
Dekat Putra Blast lagi doktor.
Putra Blast lagi.
Dekat Putra Blast lagi.
Dekat saya dah nampak pula. Slow lah internet hari ni ya. Tadi ada some lecturers dia mention quite slow. Kat Biotech tu lah. Okay, nampak tak slide?
Nampak doktor?
Okay, so I make it slideshow. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, slideshow. Wait. Loading. InsyaAllah, my battery 30 minutes remaining. Launa and Nonmu siapa? Sarah, are you there? Are you joining us?
Yes, doctor, I'm here.
Okay. So sorry for a technical error. Just come back and then set everything this morning, and I forgot to bring my, charger, my laptop charger. So we have only it's about 30 minutes. Right, but still waiting for the slideshow to appear. Tak keluar lagi my slideshow. Okay. Nampak kan? Finally.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, tak apa, whatever, we try our best. Alright. So class, whenever you can't see anything okay, I move to, okay, you can see I move my slide. Kan? Nampak?
Nampak, doctor, nampak.
Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to every one of you. So I hope you are ready to continue our class, our next chapter. So actually, the same chapter our discuss. We are still on our chapter from the previous one, previous last 2-3 weeks ago. Okay, on this topic. Okay, food and nutritional values, right? So, for this chapter, we have our learning outcome. Number 1 and 2, we are still on this item number 2. List all the 6 classes of nutrients and identify the major role of each class in the body. So we have touched on the carbohydrates. So we move to the fats. But I think one or two slides at the end of the carbohydrate too. We continue today and then move to fats, right? And the characterization of the fats itself. Then on tomorrow, we continue on the food choice, food choice and protein and food choice on tomorrow, right? Okay, so 2 hours on tomorrow. Today we finish on the fats, right? Then on the metric system ni just very simple on next week, on Monday. Class, I plan to have our test 2 on the week 10 as usual, as previously. So my topics ni just cover my topics for test 2 next week on Tuesday. Tuesday on 31st, 21 May. 31st of May on Tuesday, 9 to 11. At BS, bilik seminar, BS 1.3, okay, from 9 to 11 in the morning on next Tuesday, right? Okay, so my topic ni just cover, my part only cover this topic lah, food and nutritional values. Okay, covering this chapter, all this chapter lah, right? So 1 and 2, we will finish on tomorrow on proteins, okay, all the 6 classes. and then followed by the food choice, the factors lah, how to how those what are the factors that influence or what you call it influence lah, the personal people choice of food. And then the basic nutrition tu lah, there are 10 basic nutrition concept. Only this topic, food and nutritional values, right? All the 6 classes, factors of the personal food choice, and 10 basic nutrition concept. So we can finish on Monday. Next Monday tu just for metric system lah, very simple calculation, how to calculate the calorie from the food itself, right? So topik kita ni saja, chapter protein, carbohydrate and lipids, right? Plus the food source and apa tu, nutrition concept lah, basic nutrition concept, right? Okay. So, and then plus test 2 also cover another one, I'm not sure Dr. Badrin punya part, 1 or 2 topic from Dr. Badrin, right? Okay, so we continue on today. Okay. I will update on tomorrow and from time to time regarding on the structure. So usually we have I'm planning to have 2, sometimes 3, but maybe 2 lah because I just came back from me. And then we have ready for 2 section, A and B. A is the multiple choice question. This is the common lah, multiple choice question. It's about 40 questions, 40 to 50, something like that lah macam tu And then other one is section B section B either the structures or short essay. Okay, right. So we continue. We have done this or the carbohydrates. Okay, so there are many subclasses of the carbohydrates from the simple one, the class of simple carbohydrate, and the very complex carbohydrate. So complex carbohydrate, they have 2, starch, digestible starch, and indigestible fibers. Okay, so indigestible fibers consisting the oligosaccharide and dietary fibers. So the 3 fibers, they have 2, soluble fiber or insoluble fiber. Okay, which are very important. The fibers or indigestible fibers, very important in keeping our gut healthy, healthy condition. So these are some example. Try to recognize what are the major food sources, the examples. Okay, the student should be able to recognize what are the example of food sources. Okay, that categorize under soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, and basically they have the different, I mentioned previously, different different function. For the soluble fiber, they have the ability to attract the water and also the fat or oil. All right. That's why the soluble fibers. Okay, those example you can get from the book, or I put some in my slide also. The soluble fiber usually they are helping in terms of the delay of the absorption of the glucose in the blood system. So that's why they can slow emptying of stomach. Because we are feeling of fullness of our stomach, because they have the ability to attract the water, and then it make them the food become swell. Okay, then only we can feel the fullness, the feeling of fullness of our stomach. So it can provide us or prevent us from eating more. Right. Of course, it can also reduce the absorption of the cholesterol, because this in the upper dietary fiber, okay, the soluble fiber, they have the ability to inhibit enzyme, amylase and glucosidase, okay, to cut or break down the polysaccharide into the glucose. So it can also inhibit or attract the cholesterol or fats, okay, from getting being absorbed. Right, so it can reduce the absorption of the cholesterol. Okay, so the properties of the flowing, the empty of stomach, okay, as well as reducing the absorption of the cholesterol, it can be done or responsible for those part of the um, soluble fiber. However, another one which is the indigestible, sorry, insoluble fiber, it can be used or is very good in terms of you know become as a carrier, or to add the bulk to the stools, our stools. Okay, because it cannot be digested, right? So it can become a carrier to help at the bulk system on our stools be getting down, or to help in um, increase the movement of our stools throughout from the small intestine to the large intestine, be excreted from our body. Right, that is the very important function of the uh, insoluble fiber. Okay, insoluble fiber, because cannot have the ability to accept the water. Right, so they have the soluble and insoluble fiber. Right, so make sure you can recognize differences. And then we have seen the both hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia, the both conditions which are um, the condition of our body in terms of regulation of the blood glucose level in our body. Okay, so and of course the presence or the function of this glucagon, as well as the um, another one is the insulin. Okay, how can they help? We stimulate this our cell. Okay, to take up, either take up the glucose, okay, from the bloodstream into the cells, or release. Okay, just like glucagon release from the uh, liver cells or body cells into the bloodstream. All right. So we have seen some of the role of nutrition and the associated diseases, and we have touched all this. Okay. Then we have seen some of the examples of the alternative sugars, okay, as comparison to the sugar cane, which is very, very high content of the calorie, right? So as comparison to the natural sugar of the sugar cane, we have the artificial sweetener, which is the synthetic one. So we can synthesize the artificial sweetener, right? Okay, for example, this one lah, of this list, saccharin, aspartame, acetaldehyde, sucralose. So aspartame is the most common one. So you can see from the many types of products on their labeling, on their package label, right? So what is the very the unique of this artificial sweeteners as comparison to the natural cane sugar? Cane sugar, they have the high calorie, but for this synthetic artificial sweetener, it doesn't have the calorie, or very, very minimal calorie, right? Including the sugar alcohols. But this is the artificial sweetener. Nowadays, if you ever heard about the very recent quite common apa kata latest technology, because we can get the natural alternative sweetener without calorie, zero calorie from the natural occurring plants. Okay, as comparison to the artificial one. So stevia leaves has been applied, has been what we call it, accommodate in many types of product, including the beverage. So nowadays the carbonated drink kan, if you pernah lah, if you ever uh, aware on the carbonated drink, maybe after Hari Raya, during the Hari Raya, you can see in their ingredient. So class, during my class ni kan, I always asking students, I recommend students to what we call it, aware, what we have, what we eating. Okay, just always looking at the ingredients on the packaging though. They put, sometimes they put mention carbonated drink with stevia, sugar, something like that lah. And some maybe the other types of drinks, they put the not only the beverage lah, on the food products menu, they put the alternative um, sweetener. Okay, either they put the stevia leaves, the natural alternative, or they put the what I have mentioned list previously, this is the artificial one. Okay, but for the natural one is much better. And then there are some examples, and I think we have also this lactose intolerant, which actually is a very, very common digestive problem. okay, or disorder, okay, where the foods, when our body cannot have the ability to fully digest or unable to digest, okay, those lactose. Lactose is the sugar from milk, okay, dairy milk product, right? So where these are the most common occurring conditions or disorder for those for young kids, those who are still developing their lactase enzymes, okay. So due to the um, lack or minimal amount of the lactase in our body, those young kids, so they have the inability to fully digest the lactose, okay, the milk sugar from many types of product, because they usually consume the milk, right, or dairy based products, right. So this is what is happening when they consume more lactose, okay, then can be digested. So the remaining lactose can have the ability to attract the water, so that our stomach becomes swell, it can cause the so-called head spinning, pening-pening kepala, cause floating tu lah, abdominal discomfort, okay, and diarrhea, as well as when the remaining of the lactose that cannot be digested by our body. So some intestinal bacteria, they are feeding on those undigested lactose, which can produce acid and gas, and also can cause the gastric condition in our body, as well as the head spinning together. And it can be improve, or um, apa tu, we can have the alternative dietary lactase enzyme from product lah, okay. But this is the most common occurring in young kids, not the old people lah. Okay, now looking at the glycemic index is actually class. Have you ever heard the glycemic index? Tak tanya Have you heard this glycemic index?
Yes, doktor.
So index meaning that the certain value. Okay, so the glycemic index is actually the indicator value. There is a certain value which indicate what? Of how quickly the blood sugar level rise. Okay, this is an indicator. The value that indicate. Okay, glycemic index is the indicator value. Okay, nilai penunjuk or penanda. Okay, on how quickly the blood sugar levels, okay, from the food, any type of food that we consume, okay, rise after, it's about 2 hours, 2 hours after eating a particular type of food consisting or containing carbohydrate lah. Of course, almost types of food contain the carbohydrate. So depending on their GI value, glycemic index, how quick they rise the blood sugar level. Okay, so by definition, the glycemic index estimates how much each gram. Okay, this is the scientific definition of the glycemic index or GI value. Estimate how much. Allahu Akbar. My battery is running low. Okay, never mind. Okay, how much each gram? How much each gram? 1 gram now. How much each gram of available carbohydrate, excluding fiber, not including fiber. Okay, can raise the person's blood glucose level after following the consumption of the food, okay, which related to the consumption of the pure glucose. So we have the value for the pure glucose. So the GI value or glycemic index value of the glucose is 100, right? So there are a wide range of the glycemic index from 1 to 100. So 100 is the pure glycemic index for glucose. Well, basically there are 3 types of food food glycemic index classes, which can be categorized into low GI values, which have 55 or less. Okay, medium glycemic index values within 56 up to 69, and for the high types of foods having or considered as high GI value, they have 70 or more GI value. So This, there are three. Those are three: low GI, medium, and high GI value. Okay. Depending, the values are depending on how quickly they can raise blood sugar levels. Okay, can release the blood sugar level in the blood system. So a low GI food. Okay, so usually we recognize in between low GI and high GI lah. So in between is the medium one lah. So the low GI food, types of low GI food which release glucose more slowly. So glucose will more slowly digested, okay, broken down and absorbed and metabolized slowly in our body. Okay, while a high GI food causes a more rapid rise in blood glucose level. Alright, so class, basically when we are talking about the glycemic index, it depending on the what types of carbohydrates. So basically the carbohydrate we have the simple, right? Simple carbohydrate which is very very easy to be absorbed or to be released and can rise very fast the blood glucose level. Those simple carbohydrates categorized in as a low GI food. Oh, sorry, high GI food because it can rise very fast of the blood glucose level, right? Because they're very, very simple carbohydrates. So a low GI value meaning that they can be released very, very slow because they have the long polysaccharide chains, okay? So that those enzyme can have the ability to digest slowly, okay? Because they have the long one. The complex carbohydrates actually categorized under this low GI types of food. Okay, class, you can recognize, high GI means they can rise, can rise the blood glucose level very, very fast, right? So actually due to basically they are referring to the very simple carbohydrates, very simple carbohydrates, easily to be released from the monosaccharide and disaccharides. But for the low GI, usually the polysaccharide it has a long structures, right? So it can be digested or broken down or released slowly and then get digested and metabolized, okay, to be converted into energy, right? So make sure class, the low GI food and high GI food should be recognized well. Okay, whether they are simple carbohydrate or complex one. So actually you can get by yourself through the system what are the examples. There are many examples, thousands examples of those foods that categorized under low GI and high GI. So in between is the medium lah. So in the medium, sometimes in the border can group into low GI or another group can be categorized into the other high GI value. Okay. So high GI food is suitable for energy recovery lah. Usually when we are sleeping, right, after 7-8 hours, so we after wake up, after sleeping or after fasting for several hours, so we need this kind of high GI value, okay, to boost the energy lah, because we need those foods that very simple to be absorbed, the glucose, okay, that can be released very very fast. So we need this high GI value types of food. And for a person experiencing hypoglycemia, they have the very, very low or lack of the blood glucose level in the bloodstream. Okay, got me, class? Glycemic index, make sure you can recognize this, example. So that maybe you will ask for this example of foods. Okay, we can recognize the low GI and high GI. The medium is quite very difficult because they can be in the those groups. But low GI and high GI are very simple, depending on the types. Either simple carbohydrate or very complex carbohydrate, which is the long one. The polysaccharides, okay, fibers, oligosaccharides, something like that. Okay, now we move to the fat and oil class. Usually we have done, I'm sure you have been experienced, have been taught about the fats and oil under the biomolecules class on your first semester, if not mistaken. So fats and oil, so we are looking at those some of the characteristics of the fats and oil. So actually the fats and oil are in one group of lipids. That class. So what are the difference between fats and oils class? They are lipids, all right? But the lipid compound So what are the main difference between fats and oil? In terms of what? They are different in which way? Yeah, third class, fats and oil. Because we're looking at those types of uh, fats from animals, okay, from plant, as well as the oil, okay, which are especially grouped into under the plants. What are the difference between these? Their physicals, their physical nature, at dia lah the physical nature, physical properties, characteristics at room temperature. Lipids that have the solid, okay, or semi-solid form, okay, at room temperature, so-called fats. But the oil is the lipids which have the what we call it, showing the liquid, liquid lipid, liquid form of lipid, so-called oils. Tu je so they are different in their physical nature lah at room temperature. So basically, we know that the most concentrated form of energy, which is the second resource of the energy in our body, insulate body, keeping heat in our body, within the organs, protection of the organs, and regulate or control the body temperatures. Okay, so it can be available as a fat soluble vitamins, essential fatty acid to human body. So we'll see what are the examples of the essential or EFA, essential fatty acid, as a building materials as well as the building structures of our body cells. So basically, class, there are major classes, the fat and oil or lipids. We're looking at some of the major classes. So basically, when we talk about the lipids, they can be categorized into some classes. Somewhere, so they have the group into the short chain and the medium chain, okay, and then long chain and very long chain, VLC, very long chain. And the major classes, the major classes of the lipids, okay, categorized under this so-called long chain. Long chain, which is those organic compound, carbon that have is minimum at least 10, C10, carbon 10 up to 30, okay, up to 30. So these are the example of the oil class or fat class. So the oil or fat line, we're talking about what the depending on their nature. So basically, class, just like if you can see here, these are the example. This is a very simple example. So this one you can recognize, you can classify this C12 0, C16 0, which are categorized under saturated fat. Okay, saturated lipid can also, right? So if there are oil, lauric, for example, lauric oils, palmitic oils, because the example here, so it can come from the plants. Usually the lipids from plants, so called, or in the form of oil at room temperature. So that's why they call it as the lauric oils or palmitic oils. Okay, so it can be under the category of the unsaturated one, unsaturated fatty acids, such as the olive oils, because they have a C18. Another one, C18 2, C18 1, because they have the one is equal to the presence of double bond, the number of double bond contained in their structure, olive oils, and we have another one is the linoleic oils. Okay, they have two, so they are considered as the PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid. Okay, I hope you ever heard this lah. PUFA, PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid, unsaturated due to the presence of the double bond, 1, 2. So if there are more than 2, okay, 3 and up, above lah. So that's so-called high PUFA, high polyunsaturated fatty acid. Examples are EPA or DHA. Class, have you heard this EPA and DHA? In the soft gel or fish oil? Pernah tak dengar? I think many years ago lah Common EPA, DHA. Class? The soft gel of omega, contohnya omega 3, kan? Omega 3. Have you heard that? In the pharmaceutical product lah, pharmaceutical products. The soft gel of fish oil, for example. Right? Class? They comes from the salmon oil, tuna fish oil, mackerel, depending, what kind of the the unsaturated oils that contain in their product. Kan class, have you heard, anyone heard this EPA and DHA? Pernah tak dengar?
Pernah dengar doktor?
What is EPA? Panjang nama dia Ecosa pentanoic acid. Okay. DHA is docosahexaenoic acid. Alright. So nanti kita tengok at that letter high PUFA. Okay. So they have more than 2. Okay. Double bond in their structure. It can be 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So this is the example of the long chain fatty acid, which can be categorized as or under saturated, unsaturated, which can be categorized under the unsaturated or high PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid. Okay. Look at these saturated fats. This is the most common, okay, available or natural occurring compound or lipids in animals. Okay, so saturated fats in animals, okay, saturated fats have higher percentage, more than 50%. Okay, more than 50%, right? Other than their unsaturated fatty acid. So saturated fats is higher. They have higher percentage, more than 50% lah. In comparison to their unsaturated fatty acids, right? Okay. For the plant fats, the saturated fats also available in the plants, but lower, as comparison to the animal saturated fats. Okay, the saturated fats, lemak tepu, that's why they have the cholesterol. Cholesterol under these fats only available or belonging to the animals. Only animal fats have cholesterol. Okay? Plant fats doesn't have the cholesterol. All right. So saturated fat has higher percentage. Okay, in animal than in plant. Okay. So the plant fats high in unsaturated fatty acid. Okay. Then in animal. Right. So saturated fats in plant is lower, right, and doesn't have the cholesterol. Okay, alright. So that's why those are the example lah, the percentage from the different sources, right? So plant fats, usually if you have heard, palm oil is common one lah, palm oil, there is saturated fat, saturated lemak tepu. Okay, and then cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is the fat. So why butter? Why butter here? Why fat? Some fats and butter, they are actually referring to the same solid compound of lipid, solid form. Solid form. So cocoa butter, because they have the fatty materials or lipids from cocoa product. Okay, buah cocoa, they have the portion of the butter or fat. So called butter. Butter is very, very solid one. And engkabang fat. Okay, engkabang is comes from the another types of plant. Mainly can be found in Sabah, Sabah or Sarawak. Okay, palm oil is common in Malaysia lah. It's Malaysia. Okay, so type of fatty acid in plants. Okay, you can see there are different percentage of portion. But what you need to know is the portion of the saturated fat is higher in animals than in plants. The plant has higher in unsaturated fatty acid. Okay, you must recognize now, because sometimes you are given a certain sentence. Okay, so you need to make sure that the information is correct. Right. Okay. And we talking about the unsaturated oil, unsaturated fatty acid. So we call here unsaturated oil because it comes from the plant. So basically, the plants have their lipid in the form of liquid or oils. Okay, as comparison to the fat from lipids from animal source. Okay, usually they are they known as fat, right? Fat, because they have the solid form in at room temperature. Okay, so the plant oil, there are many types of oil that can be extracted from plant. Okay, and then they have higher long chain fatty acid. Yeah, this one long chain fatty acid. Okay, mono unsaturated oil. Okay, so they have mono, they have poly. polyunsaturated oil, which is combined together, which contribute to higher percentage of the unsaturated fatty acid than its saturated fatty acid. Okay, so these are just the example lah. Those plants that can provide their high percentage of oils. Okay, this is a polyunsaturated oil. So what are the difference? Depending on the presence of the double bond. Okay, double bond. Okay, just like linoleic acid, C18 C18 right? Uh, so soybean, sunflower or safflower. So safflower is another kind of it's the same family as sunflower, from the apa tu, yellow color of the flower. Okay, just recognize. So this is a summary from this selected oil. So if you can see on the right side, we have like a oil bottle, oil apa tu, container, showing the list of different types of oil from many a variety of plants. All right. So if you can see here, going down the list, okay, you can see the lowest, or the lower three, the lowest three uh, types of oil, cocoa butter. The word butter actually referring to the solid fat, solid lipids, right? Cocoa butter, usually available in chocolate. Okay, the pure chocolate is very very nice taste, the pure one lah. Okay, cocoa butter, palm kernel oil or PKO. I have mentioned from the previous class, food biochemistry analysis biomol. PKO, palm kernel oil, where the oil which can be extracted from the kernel part coating, not the flesh part in the middle. The endosperm bukan, dekat kernel, which is the tempurung of the seed. So the part of the kernels of the palm fruit, okay, we can obtain their oil, okay, containing the oil. And then also the coconut oil, the coconut is the oil can be extracted from the kernel part. Remember, it's same, goes to same with the palm kernel oil, okay. So the coconut oil can be extracted from the kernel part of the coconut plant, coconut fruit, okay. So these are the three most common product of oil, okay, cocoa butter, PKO, and coconut oil, which is high percentage in their saturated fatty acids, right? It's about 60, 82, and 87. But the rest are polyunsaturated fatty acids. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, and the differences percentage or portion of the saturated and polyunsaturated or PUFA actually contribute or um, um, differentiate their main function for the saturated fatty acid, for saturated oil, oil, okay, or saturated uh, fatty acid which contain in cocoa butter, PKO, and coconut oil. They form as basically we can see in their physical nature as a more viscous one, okay, the and okay, more viscous one, because due to the high, um, they have high the boiling point as comparison to the polyunsaturated. So the saturated one usually we apply for apply as a pharmaceutical product. Okay, topical delivery, which can be applied on the skin to spread on the skin. To treat or to treat the skins from to help or prevent from any skin diseases like eczema and many more. Uh, and then for the smooth effect, right? But as comparison to the polyunsaturated fatty acid, you can see on top here, right? Okay, right? So they have high percentage of PUFA, which can be mainly used for food processing, as a cooking oil, okay? So they are the main different properties, okay, of function, okay, depending on their nature, such as depending on the presence of their saturated or and polysaturated fatty acid, right? So actually this the class, if you ever for those who are really aware what we are using in our food processing, system, right? And what we are eating, what we apply on our skin. So you can see on top, you can see from the pharmaceutical product, for example, you can see the cocoa butter, for example, very good in cocoa butter, palm kernel oil, and coconut oil. So you can see in the many pharmaceutical product, okay, they are basically for moisturizer, for example, spread on the skin, as comparison to the rest of fat oils that have higher in their polyunsaturated fatty acid, which is very good lah in terms of healthy effects. Healthy effects because we are using in food processing as a cooking oil, okay, as comparison to the those oil that have high in saturated one, okay. Okay, so in managing the oil consumption, usually we are focusing on the healthy aspect lah. So basically, when we talk about the oil consumption, from there can be built from the either the resource of the oil, either can be from animal or plant, right? So basically, from the plant, they have low saturated one and high in pure polyunsaturated fatty acids, which is very good, very good in reducing the total cholesterol, reducing the LDL. Okay, what is LDL class? And increase HDL. The good, apa tu? If we can manage the oil consumption, it can reduce the total cholesterol. Okay, we can reduce the LDL. LDL is the low density what class? Low density lipoprotein C and for cholesterol. Okay, LDL. Have you heard that class? LDL. Biasa common kan in metabolism, in many types of many kind of metabolism process. Class, you tell me kan? Low density lipoprotein. Class, you still me? You still with me? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
You kan? The 55 student ni. LDL, low density lipoprotein cholesterol. Okay? And then another one is what is HDL class?
High density lipid.
Lipoprotein cholesterol. So these two types of cholesterol. So LDLC and HDLC. Okay? So which one is bad? Which one is good? So LDL, low density lipoprotein cholesterol, is good or bad? Cholesterol.
LDL is bad.
Sorry? Low density lipoprotein cholesterol, good or bad?
Bad.
Are you sure? This one, high density lipoprotein. Which one is good? Which one is bad? Sure tak sure ni? High density lipoprotein. Okay, check esok I tanya. Okay, so basically cholesterol the lipoprotein is the biochemical carrier. Okay, they bring the proteins on the lipoprotein. So they carry the lipids, okay, on the proteins. That's why low density lipoproteins. So low density lipoprotein is low. Okay, the low density lipoprotein. So lipoprotein is lower, but high density lipoprotein is tinggi. Okay, high density lipoprotein is higher. Okay, tomorrow I will ask class LDL, cholesterol, and HDL on during first dulu Okay, low so it's good if you can manage the oil consumption, it can reduce the total cholesterol, reduce the LDL because LDL is bad one. And increase the okay. Okay, so this is all the other examples of disease associated with the um, oil consumption.